Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Curbs, a bunch of little rise and falls as well. It's not perfectly flat, and it's got a lot of character and one of the tightest hairpins in sim racing, full stop. So, you know, beautiful circuit located in a very picturesque part of the world. You know what? It's a little bit warmer over there at the moment. I wouldn't mind flying over and just being there for a week or two on the streets of Long Beach.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't mind either. Let's check it out from the air. Long Beach, of course, at the southern end of California. This track has been around since 1975. First race that it held was actually a Formula 5000 race before it hosted the Long Beach Grand Prix in Formula 1 intermittently throughout the 1970s and early 80s. And it's been through quite a few layout changes over that time, but this is the layout that we currently have. Left turn at turn 1, go around the fountain in a bit of a chicane around the roundabout, and then a bunch of right angle turns, which look simple from the air, but certainly aren't from the driver's seat.
Yeah, and a bunch of them are actually a lot wider than we're used to seeing from traditional street circuits as well. So the cool thing about this place is that there is an opportunity to overtake, where a lot of street circuits, you kind of only get one chance. You know, there's a couple of them throughout the lap. Yeah, it's going to take some mistakes. Yeah, it's going to take some setup work. But then Toyota 86 is a long run down to turn number 1, all about late braking in these cars, and that narrows up. This is tough. This is technical. It's tricky here tonight as well. And a car, this is probably the perfect combination. There's maybe one or two other cars that really suit this place, but yeah, Toyota 86, great racing, I think.
Yeah, we've certainly had plenty of drama over the course of the season and plenty of fantastic racing. Also had rain make appearances at a few of the rounds so far, but it is bone dry in Long Beach at the moment. The weather is pretty cloudy. It's not quite overcast, but it's definitely a California May day here with some fog potentially creeping in later on in the day, but the race will certainly be done by the time that is coming through. No rain projected for this round. It's all going to be about surviving the tarmac, surviving the concrete walls. Lap 1 is certainly going to be a challenge.
I was actually just off in another Discord channel, just chatting to a couple of drivers that tend to group up and take part in this one. Brett Selby-Wood returns alongside of Matt Stratford, Marlon McMullen, and there's a group of guys that are all over there sitting down having a fair bit of fun. Everyone that said this week they're lining up to, they really want to take out Marlon McMullen. That's basically their only goal. So if they get a shot at them, that's car racing. You know, it's sit down on a Thursday night for that group, and it's all about having fun in a couple different formats. So Yeah, that's what they like to do on Thursday nights. Brett Selbywood gave him a little bit of a rough up. He's been exceptionally quick. He's actually had a really, really strong week at Daytona last week, except for the one split we broadcasted. He had a very, very strong week, and one race he messed up. And of course, that was the race we broadcasted. So,
yeah, unfortunate for Brett Selbywood. Let's see how he tackles these conditions. It's 21 degrees Celsius on the tarmac at the moment, 19-degree air temperature, plenty of wind as well, 27 k's an hour. Usually the wind doesn't quite affect the GR86s like it does, the faster cars on the service, like the prototypes and the open wheelers. But the banners as well. We've just been pointed out by Jay. Is that a gopher? What is that? Yeah, that's an otter. Some kind of furred mammal.
I'm going to say that's probably something to do with 20 years of the aquarium.
It must be a sea otter, then. Yeah. All right. Well, that's an interesting little distraction there as drivers complete qualifying. Jay pointing that out to us behind the scenes, and I've never noticed that either. There's so much signage around this circuit that sometimes the Easter eggs get lost. So much detail in this circuit, so much so, in fact, that it took iRacing a while to fully release this track because most people's computers just weren't powerful enough to take advantage of everything they'd scanned. But it's here. And it's going to be Marlon McMullen, who starts on pole alongside Luciano Wittvoet, the highest iRating driver in the session. Mitchell McLeod is going to start in third place alongside Matt Stratford. And then we have the number 15 of Max Walton starting alongside the 16 of Aaron Obersteller, who you might know from our GT3 broadcasts. Alan Rasmussen and Sam Devantier are going to start 7th and 8th. The top 10 rounded out by Evolution Racing Team's Sebastian Flock and Synergy Sim Racing's Matthew Brunt.
Yeah, throwing it over will be 11th and 12th. Michael Van Bremen and Brett Selbywood talked about him as always in that 55586. Kim Lee and Antonio Trino. Behind them, Mark Taylor and Michael Cullen. Jorge Aguilar and Matthias Kaboch, 17th and 18th. And guess what? 19 cars in the split. The only one not set a time, Niels May.
Indeed. It looks like a field spread of just under 2 seconds. So I think the racing is going to be very competitive, especially up the front. McMullen, 0.2 faster than P2, but there's very small gaps further on back. It looks like there's 0.3 of a second or so covering 2nd to 6th. I'm looking forward to seeing some good racing here. As always, a 15-minute sprint, possible changeable weather. The drivers completing their laps for the grid over 2 circuits of Long Beach with 8 minutes to do that. And considering the lap times around about 90 seconds, I'm calling that we're looking at about a 10-lap race, potentially.
Yeah, it's tight on that one. There is a potential we may only get 9 laps, but it'll have to run very, very quickly. And don't forget cold tires on these cars as well. Watch the cars to dance down in a turn 1. There'll be somebody to lose the end, as just about always happens. But yeah, look. 9-10 lap race. It's going to be about timing everything. Don't want to jump out to the lead too early. Maybe it's better to sit and follow a little bit as well, potentially sometimes. So just read the situation that's in front of you is a big part of racing here.
Indeed it is, and it looks like Marlon McMullen's reading the situation at the end of the lap very well. He's given the pace car a lot of time to jump into the pit lane because they have to navigate the hairpin before they take the rolling start here. Now, how many incidents are we going to see before the race even gets underway? It's very tight quarters in the hairpin. McMullen just... oh, wow, he's accelerating out of the hairpin. It's a very early start for Marlon McMullen. He was pretty much up to racing speed by the time they got there. So the green flag flies, and we are racing at Long Beach for the GR Buttkicker Cup. McMullen in the lead already by half a second, but Wittvoet and McLeod will go side by side on the way into turn 1. How deep does Mitchell McLeod go? Wittvoet moves across onto the racing line to cover. Does go slightly deep into turn one. Looks like the first part of the field has made their way through cleanly. And as they all file through the first turn, ooh, take it easy, everybody. Well, looks like they've almost all managed to avoid dinging the walls.
It was Max Walton was so deep in at the roundabout, supremely offline. Nearly ended up in the barriers, nearly checked that entire section of the field up, but everyone survived for now. So now it's sort of pick your battles. You've got to read. The problem with these shorter sprint races is you've got to read everyone very, very quickly. Is this guy quick enough to stay with the guy ahead? Am I quicker? Suss them out. You know, 10 laps to do the duration throughout the race here. You've only got 10 opportunities to have a look at the cars that are around you, so you need to size things up very, very quickly and go, yes, I've got a really good exit. That guy made a mistake on that lap. He's normally quite strong in that section. That's not going to be an overtaking opportunity I'll get again. So, yeah, make some quick judgment calls.
Yeah, the only driver to really lose out on lap one was Antonio Crino in the number 12. He's down 5 spots. Kim Lee passing Michael Van Bremen for 13th place as we ride on board with the Cocoa Pops entry. And Max Walton facing off a lot of pressure from Alan Rasmussen behind as he tries to catch up to Matt Stratford, Mitchell McLeod, and Luciano Whitvoet. Looks like Marlon McMullen had a poor exit out of the hairpin. Whitvoet is going for it here in turn one. McMullen will go defensive on the way into the first turn on board here with Whitvoet, and he backs out of it, recognizes that there's no chance of making it around the outside there, but it's so cramped in these tight quarters in the opening part of the lap. There's no way that he can take advantage of a mistake here.
Yeah, and have a look at Mitch McLeod immediately in behind. He was, you know, maybe 2-3 tenths further back, and just because McMullen went defensive down at turn one, he's immediately lost that margin. So now it becomes a 3-car fight yet again. Starting to break away just a little bit from Stratford in behind. And Walton really, really benefited from that one as well. So Aaron Obastella leads the second group of cars that have lost the tote. That's got Sam Devantier and Seb Flock in it, and around goes the Vermilion Sim Sports driver as well.
Oh yeah, that's no good there for Aaron Obastella. Stuck off the racing line, got to wait for the whole field to get by. He will get back up to speed. Looks like, unfortunately, he lost the rear by himself on the way through the left-hander there, and unfortunately, Sam Devantier collected him as he went around. Well, we'll keep our eyes peeled on the front as Mitchell McLeod is starting to gain here. He's also facing a ton of pressure from Matt Stratford out of the hairpin for the second time. As we look further back at the field, that's Sam Devantier right there and struggling to get through the hairpin here. He's picked up some damage from the unfortunate spin there for Obastella, but it doesn't seem to have affected his pace all that much. McLeod, meanwhile, fastest lap of the race so far. He is on the attack.
Yeah, and should be able to pull that one off just purely because the two guys ahead of him were squabbling at turn one last time by. So he lost a chunk of time. I reckon McMullen's good. I think he's good in terms of pace. He seems a little bit stronger than everyone else that's around him. So I don't know whether or not that position's actually going to be contested too hotly. Think back a couple of weeks ago to when Mitch McLeod started to pull the moves off on the pack that was around him at Sebring. So there's a couple of opportunities there. Mitch tends to use his head quite a lot in terms of these 86 races. He knows that he's with this front group, so don't expect him to pull the trigger too early. He's going to wait for a later moment within the race.
Yeah, just sit behind, suss things out, and then when you feel like you can make the move stick, you go for it. And ideally later on in the race, because then that's less of a chance for your rivals to come back at you. But remains to be seen whether or not Luciano Whitvoet can hold on to all of this. Whitvoet, part of the Benelux club. In fact, all the field is from Australia and New Zealand except for Luciano, Antonio Crino, Matthias Kuboc, Nils May, and Jorge Aguilar. We've got one Italian, 2 German, Austrian, Switzerland drivers, and 1 Benelux driver. There you are. Those are all the clubs right there. And unfortunately, the Italians and Iberians are not having a great time.
Unfortunately, towards the tail end of the field. Like I said, Marlon looks stronger. He just seems like he's just pulling supreme amounts of time in those middle sectors of the lap. Yeah, sure, the toe's helping those drivers around him, but he's just carrying enough pace. He's going to potentially go close enough to breaking the draft at this point in time. Luciano might be learning from him, though, watching a little bit, you know, as these high-rated drivers tend to do. They go, okay, I am a little bit stronger. I just didn't know that I could carry the car 5 meters deeper here, a little bit turned in later there, carry more pace race off the apex. So he'd be watching and he'd be reading as well. I just don't know that there's enough time for him to make those responses and close back in enough.
Yeah, and adding on to that point, it's a street circuit, so it's very hard to make passes anyway. Let's see if Matthew Brunt has any success as he tries to chase down Sebastian Flock for 7th place on the road. Brett Selby Wood in the World Rally Subaru Tribute livery. Behind that was a very big two-wheel moment from Kim Lee in the background there. Not too sure if that was the netcode involved in that. Is a replay, meanwhile, for the number 12 of Antonio Crino, and unfortunately took a bit too much curb at the roundabout, and the car's center of gravity didn't like that one.
Up on the two wheels, and you've got to do some very precise maneuvering from there to hang on to it, let alone in that tight of a space. You don't have a lot of room to maneuver, and yeah, around she goes. So another lap in the books. We're now on to lap 5, so looking probably about halfway mark at the end of this lap. And like I said, look, Whitvold was watching and recovers, so he's found some ground yet again.
He has indeed. He's gone a little bit deep in turn 1 though, which brings him under attack from McLeod coming into the fountain section. But this piece of racetrack is so narrow, the walls are so close, that you really can't afford to stick the cars side by side, especially with over half the race still left to run. Nice wide exit from this right-hander though. You can carry so much speed onto this short straight before the next braking zone into this left-hander that is a bit faster than you think it is. Again, very wide on the exit. You're getting on the power. These GR86s, they don't have much power, but they've got enough to kick in a little bit of oversteer if you're on the throttle too aggressively.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they do have traction control and ABS, but it's generally turned down to a lower setting, which are kind of like, I say that, but the traction control's up a little bit higher. Any bite from the traction control in these cars just takes so much speed off of them, so you've got to make sure you actually stay off that as much as possible. Have a look at Seb Flock as well. Still trying to punch away from Brunt, can't really get anywhere. But Stratford's going with this lead group as well. He's just about managing to stay with them, but I think he's just made a mistake on the hairpins. That'll be the end of that one. But Walton's going with him as well. Everyone's sort of staying together. There's not really anyone that's making a whole
Selby Wood
chunk of time, and then, yep.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there for Brett Selby Wood. It looks like he caught the inside barrier and that hit the car around. Unfortunately, he hasn't got much space to get it recovered there. And we'll see it here. Yeah, just hit the inside barrier. And that was enough of a momentum transfer to swing the rear end around. Not good for Brett Selby Wood.
If I recall correctly, that puts him in elite company. Scott McLaughlin did exactly that same thing, about exactly the same section of the wall with nearly the exact same section of the IndyCar, if you were to percentage it out and translate that one. So Brett Selby Wood equals Scott McLaughlin? Maybe.
Potentially waiting for him to get 3 Supercars championships in the future. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Luciano Whitvogt then still chasing down Marlon McMullen for the potential win of this race. And I mean, you can see just how hard they're cutting it. McMullen obviously giving enough space to the walls, but man, they're tapping it, you know? They're trying to take as much out of it as they can. They are riding the ragged edge of disaster here up at the front.
I mean, you've got to, though. That's the thing, right? If you're not on the limit, there's somebody behind you who is, and they're going to be coming back at you. And look at it as it starts to narrow back up again. You know, these guys are coming now, and actually, if you keep half an eye on, Stratty's starting to pull some time back out of these guys, and Walton's going to go with him as well. So it is coming and starting to condense. We're going to have 4 laps left, I think. I think you were right. 10 laps might be the distance, but that pack at the front's getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and more cars are joining into it.
Yeah, look at Stratford. It's getting the new fastest lap of the race, 1:32.09. That is some stonking pace there from Matt Stratford, and if there's any kind of drama up at the front of the field, he'll be right there to take advantage. It's all about trying to get yourself as close as you can to that fight in the top 3, and then you can take advantage. Meanwhile, looks like Alan Rasmussen dropping off the back of the pack. He's had a bit of trouble keeping the pace up. Flock, meanwhile, still keeping Brunt behind and actually consolidating his pace very nicely. Ran 2/10 faster than Brunt on the previous lap.
Yeah, good job by him as well. He's in a really, really good, tight little battle, those two. I wonder whether or not he's starting to make some time, or that might have been a mistake from Brunt. Brunt seems quite weak in the first 2 sectors though, so I don't know whether or not that's actually maybe a bad exit off the last corner, and then it just carries itself. In a Toyota 86, that front straightaway just drags on and on and on, and you get a bad exit, you sat there looking at your Delta just skip away from you for the entire straight.
Yeah, you've got a lot more time to think about your mistakes in an 86 compared to something like an Australian touring car or an Indy car. As out of the hairpin we come, it looks like McMullen has gained a little bit more on Whitvote, and McLeod is starting to pounce. It seems like that lap for Whitvote wasn't the best it could have been. 132.6 for Whitvote, McLeod a 132.3. So big pace, big pressure on Whitvote right now. He'll have to give a tiny bit of space to McLeod around the outside into turn 1, and he covers it very nicely. But that little side-by-side moment has given McMullen a bit of breathing room.
And 3 laps left to go, so not a lot of time to A, get close up and make sure you build the momentum back and do something with it, but B, get up to him. So I think this is now going to be a battle for second. There is time enough for them to get back there right now, but nothing further can go wrong. If they fight a little bit longer, it's then just a battle for second. They can do nothing about McMullen. McMullen's been clean, he's been crisp, he's maybe made 1 half mistake is about all I've seen out of him. So very accurate, very clean race, and that's why he's leading the way. But have a look at Whitvote. So he is having to really cover for McLeod.
Yeah, he's lost touch with McMullen now. I think what Luciano is going to have to do is focus on the exit of the hairpin. Just make sure to keep McLeod behind him to start, and then nail the throttle on the way out. Look at Max Walton behind, meanwhile, chasing down Matt Stratford, and a little bit of a different line through the final couple of corners. You slow down so much for the hairpin here. And Walton going for the slow in, fast out method doesn't seem to have worked out for him that time. 2 laps to go here at Long Beach. And now the pressure is on for second place. McLeod on board, picking up a tiny bit of slipstream from Luciano Whitvote. Whitvote covers late. There's a very late cover there. Still allows McLeod alongside, but there's nothing he can do. He can't even make a pass into the fountain section. There's just no space. On the brakes. Ooh, yeah, lap car 2. This is going to be interesting as McLeod now figures out a way to get alongside. Can't get it done. McMullen, meanwhile, facing off against Jorge Aguilar, the first lap car of the race. Jorge is going to jump right out of the way and allow our top competitors by. Good to see. But all of that battling has just given McMullen more space at the front. It's a race for second now.
Yeah, it is. There is that laps car bridging, but he's going to have to find a really good place to get out of the way. This back straight's going to be about the last opportunity he's going to have. Remember, there's 5 cars here, short gap back to 6th as well. So there's not a huge deal of holes. He's done a phenomenal job. I enjoy that. Great job by Jorge. Gets out of the way, but McLeod's just fallen too far back. Just a little. Good braking zone right there, though. He's back in contention, but there'll only be 1 more lap left to run.
Yeah. Whitvote rotating his car very nicely through the 2 left-handers on
wide.
the power. Oh yeah, a little bit wide, but not wide enough for McLeod to take advantage. The white flag flies. Barney doing his job as Marlon McMullen crosses the line to start the final lap of the race. Everyone in a chain in the top 5. And this time there is no attempt from McLeod to get by. He's just too far back. Could pick up a tiny bit of slipstream, but he's going to have to drive the wheels off that number 3 to get it done here.
He might just settle. He might just, I don't know, that may not settle. In the meantime, not settling in the background, Seb Vlog's having to really cover Matthew Brunt, who's finally gone, all right, enough time has passed. It's time to have a crack at it. As he run out of opportunities, though, it's going to be so difficult to build some momentum through the middle of this lap and do something about it. He might even come under assault by Kim Lee.
Yeah, Lee was very aggressive on the way out of turn 1. Did you see how close he ran to the wall? He could be a factor in this battle soon enough if Brunt and Flock make a mistake. Time about to hit 0, and our leaders just making their way onto the back straight now. Double view of our 2 big battles happening on track right now. There's also a battle for the last position in the top 10, Devantier versus Bremen and Kuboc, but we'll keep our eyes peeled on these positions inside the top 10. Last couple of corners now. McMullen has 0 pressure. McLeod, will he fire one up the inside of the hairpin? No. He's not going to ruin the race of Luciano Whitvote for the sake of one extra position. So Marlon McMullen is going to cross the line and win the GR86 Buttkicker Cup here at Long Beach in a phenomenal drive. Pole and led every single lap. And Luciano Whitvote and Mitchell McLeod, battle of the race for my money. Same for these guys too. Sebastian Floor will hold off Matthew Brunt for the last position in the top 7, and it looks like Devantier, despite picking up that damage earlier, will still finish in the top 10.
Just barely. How about this battle further back as well? This is Selby Wood. Sorry, this is Devantier, my apologies. Devantier and Bremen going side by side off the end of the back straight. Managing to hang on to it. Very difficult to get a pass done around here, particularly that corner. The car's just not quite able to carry enough momentum to get it done.
Yeah, indeed. Oh man, that was a very entertaining little race. We didn't see much passing action aside from our crashes, but just that feeling of being on the knife edge and wondering if our leaders would be able to hold up made for a very entertaining night in the GR Buttkicker Cup. These are your results then. McMullen by 7/10 from Whitvote, McLeod and Stratford along with Walton rounding out the top 5. Rasmussen, Flock, Brunt, Lee and Devantier will round out the top 10, covered by 16 seconds. I think that's a pretty good stat there.
Yeah, then it's Bremen, Kuboc, Cullen, Aaron Obersteller, Mark Taylor, Brett Selby Wood, Antonio Carino. Nils May did roll out of the pits, and Jorge Aguilar was the only lapped car in that one, and did a great job. Actually, I enjoyed the fact that he got out of the way at the right opportunities. Didn't do it too early, didn't do it too late either. Did a great job, actually.
Yeah, certainly did. Well, it's going to conclude our runnings here at Long Beach, but I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to next week. Road Atlanta will play host to Week 9. You'll be able to catch it here on SimSpeed TV, 7:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Time, with the 9th of May being the date you must mark in your calendar. Road Atlanta is just a fantastic track, Scott. We both love it to death. It's just a brilliant circuit, and doubly so in 86s.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have a look at where the curbings are and the curbs that you normally talk about as being quite difficult to navigate. Oh, hey, we've got a car with soft suspension. We've got a car that doesn't necessarily fire over those curbs, bounce everywhere and go all over the place. It settles generally relatively quickly and handles those curves quite well, but it still takes a definite hand. Overtaking opportunities plenty, and you've got to be on the limit at that track. It's really difficult because it's not a street circuit, but I kind of liken it to it, just with the walls a little bit further away because it drives certainly like a street circuit.
Yeah, certainly does. Well, thank you very much, everyone out there on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick for joining us for the GR Buttkicker Cup. But we've got more coming on SimSpeed TV tonight in just half an hour's time. We'll be going live for the Oceanic Dirt Sim Events Australian Sprint Car Championship at Lincoln, and then the V8 Veterans Championship almost concurrent with ODSE. It's going to be a big night here on SimSpeed TV, so make sure that you stay with us and have a lovely Thursday evening. I'm Reese Gardner, Scott Rankin with me in the comms box, Jay Kennedy on production. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, we say bye for now, but we'll see you again very soon.
Racing isn't easy.